Baby, that's a weekend. Sean here for your Monday episode of Locked On Raptors following a pair of massive victories for your Toronto Raptors. Friday night in Phoenix against the league's best team. Saturday night in Denver at altitude against the MVP. Just a totally incredible, bloody impressive weekend for your Toronto Raptors, who are trending in the right direction after some, let's say, difficulty in the week or so after the All-Star break. We're going to dig into all of it. I've got some thoughts on what this weekend might mean for the Raptors' playoff viability. We're also going to dig into the Rookie of the Year race, which is very much a race and not a one-horse, someone's got it clinched kind of thing. We've got our dudes of the game to hand out and so much more with Vivek Jacob from Raptors.com coming up on today's episode of Locked On Raptors.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? Welcome to episode number 1137 of Locked On Raptors for Monday, March the 14th. Happy birthday to my little brother on this day. I'm your host, Sean Woodley of RaptorsHQ.com. You can find me on Twitter, as always, at WoodleySean. You can find the show at Locked On Raptors. And, of course, you can subscribe to the podcast, follow it, rate, review on all your favorite podcast apps. You can also go to YouTube and subscribe to it for absolutely free. If you want to see the video version each and every day, please go do that. It's much appreciated, as it is appreciated that you make us your first listen every day. So thanks for that. And big heads up that today's show is brought to you by our pals over at BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline is where the game starts, especially when the March Madness tournament is upon us. So go check them out. All right, on today's show, big weekend, two huge wins back-to-back in Phoenix and Denver. I don't think anyone expected they were going to win both. I think when they won on Friday over Phoenix, it was like, hey, they're going to go 1-1 in this little difficult stretch. That's wonderful. Instead, they are 37-30 now. They are one game back of the Cavaliers with one to play against the Cavaliers and are trending in a very strong directions. Vivek Jacob is here from Raptors.com to talk all about it. Man, it's Monday. I can't talk words. So you talk words, sir. How are you?
I'm good, man. Had a good weekend. Enjoyed the two wins, as you said, unexpected. Did not see that coming, but man, this team, they are exactly the type of team that can lose to, Orlando and Detroit, and then come back and beat the Suns and Nuggets in their own building. So happy to see that. Happy to see some friends. Happy to see Alphonso Davies back in training. So
yeah,
the good vibes are here for sure.
We've also, just a heads up, I'm going to be probably perusing my phone at various times throughout here, looking at Blue Jays rumors and stuff as well, because that's all happening too. Everything is happening, as it turns out. Kyle Schwarber? Maybe. Anyway, let's dive in, shall we? We're going to kind of tackle these games more as like a whole, as opposed to going game by game, just because I think there's lots of big picture stuff you can pull from two wins like that. And we'll get into some nitty gritty stuff that took place in each of these games as well. We're also going to talk about Rookie of the Year and where that's at. We got the dudes at the game to hand out, but we begin the show how we always start these episodes after games. What was your biggest takeaway from the weekend as a whole, Vivek Jacob?
I think my biggest takeaway is the value of patience and the value of trust at the right time. I think, a lot of people have rightfully criticized Kevin Burch and his play. And he recently talked about the faith that Nick Nurse and the coaching staff have shown in him, and how if he was on another team, he probably would be out of the rotation and just watching everyone do their thing. But he's been given an opportunity to try and make something of this season for himself, because it's been pretty terrible for him. And he's battled through, multiple COVID absences, the knee soreness, and multiple shots, whacks to the face.
So many whacks to the face. Stop hitting Ken Burch in the face, please.
And now he is showing that, hey, at my best, I can be a contributor to this team, a meaningful contributor that can make a difference. And so that's one of my biggest takeaways.
I think that's a really good point. And I think you could take that sort of appreciation for patience to the sort of team building model at large with this team, right? Like, I feel like a lot of people have been very quick at any point where things seem to be kind of clunky or the offense slows down and can't score for 7 minutes or their defense is too erratic because they don't have like a traditional big back there to clean things up. There's been a lot of like, well, that doesn't work. Vision 6'9" doesn't work. It's done. And I think, look, maybe it doesn't work. I just don't think we have any clue just yet as to what the viability of this team building plan is going forward. And we saw Friday, Saturday, I think 2 really great examples of why you buy into a vision like this. It's the sort of counter argument to the games where they go, 7 for 33 against the Pistons from deep or whatever it is, if they even got 33 attempts up in that game. Like you saw in this one, like there's a plan here for how this team is supposed to operate. Their defense, especially on Friday, I thought against the Suns, like that was an incredible defensive game both ways. I thought, it ended up being like a kind of a higher scoring one, but overall I thought it was just like a really toughly contested one. And the way the Raptors scrambled with their incredibly aggressive defense late in that one and forced turnovers, got in Devin Booker's head and really messed with him. Like that is why you play defense like that. That's the sort of ceiling, the upside that you're looking for. Same as we saw against the Nuggets. And look, hey, we got to give a bit of a shout out to DeMarcus Cousins. He really helped the effort for that lineup the Raptors threw out there in that fourth quarter. He was just pissing the ball away every time he saw a couple bodies, but credit to the Raptors for sending said bodies. And like that fourth quarter defense was unbelievable against the Nuggets. And, Jokic doesn't score a single point. And they, managed to scrounge enough together through offensive rebounding and timely shot making to win that game as well. And again, I just think it's kind of a reinforcement of, yeah, it might not work, but we don't know enough just yet. And we need more games like this counterbalanced with the bad to actually know, hey, is this like a viable strategy long term? Sort of connected to all of this, Big V, is I think my sort of big takeaway from the weekend is that looking at this team and the way they play and the personnel they have on hand, I kind of think, and this could be a dumb take, feel free to shoot me down, but I kind of think this team is geared to actually perform better in the postseason than it does in the regular season. There's a few reasons for that. Like one, I think like the regular season oftentimes is like a variance game, right? Like you can get killed by variance on a random night because a random dude who, maybe is not going to even be in a playoff rotation or is not going to be getting as much minutes or whatever it might be. Like you can have random guys go off and kill you in a regular season game. And like a high volume 3-point shooting team is always going to have a better chance of winning those random regular season nights. That's just not what the Raptors are. But in the postseason, things get a little tighter. Everything's a little bit more deliberate. And I think the Raptors defense has kind of shown that when things matter, it can actually tighten the screws and be really, really dangerous. It's tough to carry that over the course of an entire regular season, 48 minutes a night. But the moments where they're able to kind of really key in, they're more or less impenetrable. And in the postseason, you would think that effort is going to be ratcheted up to the full degree most of the time. And then on top of that, I think the way they're playing offense to me seems like it might be kind of postseason proof. Yeah, they're not throwing up a ton of threes off of beautiful off-ball movement or anything like that, but they're just kind of throwing it to dudes and saying, hey, you're bigger and stronger than these guys. You can score on them. And I think like when it comes to the starting five, all the main, like when they're full health, I should say, like I'm comfortable in all 5 of those guys in a pinch creating something out of nothing if they really have to. And, obviously you'd prefer it be either Scottie or Siakam because they can seemingly get off any shot they want against anybody. But Gary Trent Jr., we saw him go for 42 points on Friday. Like he can get on a heater and he can kind of do his thing with his self-creation and his mid-range game and his pull-up. You've got OG, who's just like a bulldozer going downhill. Fred VanVleet's got the mid-range game and the pull-up game that he's worked on. Better at the rim than he ever has been. Like I kind of think this team is geared for like the griminess that is postseason basketball in a way that maybe their grime factor doesn't quite ratchet up in the regular season when grime is not really sort of the main MO for a lot of teams. Do you think I'm crazy with this, or do you think this Raptors team kind of has the goods to win ugly when winning ugly is kind of the name of the game?
I definitely see your side of the take where I look at this team and what they've been able to consistently show on the road. Like you would look at those Atlanta and Charlotte games and say, that's the exception to the rule in terms of how they've played on the road. I'm writing a story about, what they've kind of been as a road team. And one of the things I have in there is you look at the standings, the only teams with better road records as we speak are the Miami Heat, the Philadelphia 76ers, the Phoenix Suns, the Memphis Grizzlies, and the Brooklyn Nets.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty good.
those 5 teams are, at full strength in the championship conversation, right?
Yeah.
And so the Raptors are not there yet, but I think in terms of their habits, and I think this is probably the biggest thing that Nick Nurse coaches into his teams is that compete level, right? And he always talks about, in terms of the team's identity, whatever it is, he wants people to walk away watching his team saying that team plays extremely hard and gives everything they have. And pretty consistently, you see that from this team. And so I think that lends toward, figuring things out in the playoffs. And Nick Nurse's coaching ability is a big factor in that too. You look down the line of the teams that will be in the play-in or the playoffs, he will, in my opinion, be at worst the second best coach.
Yeah,
behind Eric Spoelstra, at worst, and so you have a chance with that for sure. The argument against it would be, historically, you've seen some teams that go max to the max and full out in the regular season, and that's their top gear in the postseason as well. They don't have anything beyond that. And so do the Raptors have another gear to them? That's what I guess we got to wait and see.
Yeah, and I guess I would say that they have not been consistently great, especially in the defensive end in terms of their energy and their connectivity. That has not been a consistent through line of the season. It's why it's been so maddening. They're 14th in defense, despite when they are kind of at their full and most ferocious level being truly horrifying to look at if you're an opposing team. And so I do think there's a little bit more in terms of just tying things together over the course of 48 minutes defensively in particular, because that's kind of what drives everything else, right? They obviously, when they're defending well, they're getting out on the run and they're, just demolishing teams in transition. That's all part of it. And that's all part of their sort of possession gaming, right? Too. This is a team that, and this kind of goes to my argument as well. They're crashing the offensive glass. They are just nasty. They're 23 offensive boards against the Nuggets. Just incredible, especially the size that the Nuggets are throwing out there. It's wild. And so I just think again, the griminess to me seems like it'll translate well. They might not have enough shot making against the best teams in the league. And I'm not saying that because they might be a better postseason roster and sort of team building exercise that they're going to go and win every series, because there's lots of very good teams that are also well built for the postseason that they're going to come across and they could lose. But I do think I like their chances of hanging tight with some of these good teams at the very least, maybe pulling an upset if they get the right matchup, because they really feel like they're kind of set up to win in the nastiest of ways, which I'm a big fan of. I like that grind, baby. Give me that 45% offensive rebounding rate in crunch time. That is an insane number, by the way. Just to refresh people on their crunch time stats, this is another sort of reason why I feel pretty bullish on how they can do when the chips are down. They're a plus 9.1 net rating in crunch time. That's the 9th best in the league. They played the 7th most minutes. It's not a ton. It's only a 138-minute sample, but they've scored at 114.5 points per 100 possessions. They're giving up 105. And again, they're just killing the possession game. 45.5% offensive rebounding rate. It really overcomes their not so good true shooting percentage in those situations, because they're just getting those putbacks. And they got 24 more shots up than the Nuggets did on Saturday as well. It's just they're winning gross, and I think that is cool. Not gross is Scottie Barnes. We're going to talk about him, talk about the Rookie of the Year coming up in just a second here. But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at Built Bar, who are making the best tasting protein bars in the game. You got to try yourself some Built Bars. Maybe you're someone who has already given up on your New Year's resolutions to eat healthier, but that's okay. We don't have to marry ourselves to a specific date being the day at which we change ourselves. But Built Bar is here to help you whenever you might want to start easing out of that sweet tooth, that indulgent snacking, and get something a little bit better into you without any of the guilt. Go to built.com. Just check out all their wonderful flavors. They've got flavors for everybody. There's mint brownie, there's coconut stuff, there's nut and nut-free flavors, there's fruity flavors, there's a million things there for you to try. Limited time flavors appearing all the time as well, including white chocolate cookies and cream, which is up there right now. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 grams of net carbs, 17 grams of protein. a regular candy bar is going to have at least double the calories, maybe more, and like 4 times as much sugar. That's crazy. You shouldn't put that much sugar into your body ever. So go to built.com. They're all about the taste. They make it taste good first, then figure out how to make it healthy. Don't know how they do it, but they pull it off every single time. Go to built.com, use the promo code LOCKED15, get 15% off your order. That's the promo code LOCKED15, LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. We continue on here with your Monday episode of Locked On Raptors, your very first listen of the day with Vivek Jacob from Raptors.com. We should probably talk about Scottie Barnes. 11 of 20, 25 points, 8 boards, 10 assists, 2 steals and a block, plus 15 against the Nuggets, was instrumental in that fourth quarter lineup, which again, we should maybe re-impress. No Pascal Siakam or Gary Trent Jr. for the first 8 minutes of the fourth quarter against the Nuggets on Saturday. It was Trent, it was Thad Young, it was Delano Banton, and it was Boucher, and it was Burch, and they were just flying around, getting steals, and Barnes was kind of the orchestrator of a lot of this stuff, had a huge offensive rebound late, kicked it to Chris Boucher for what was kind of the dagger 3. Loved Chris Boucher's just casual walk back after that one. It was beautiful. Thoughts on Scottie's weekend? You know, it wasn't as banner a night on Friday against the Suns. He still had 15 points. He still had some flashes. He had 5 steals as well. It was huge for the defensive side of the ball. 2 blocks in that one as well. Overall impressions of Scottie Barnes this weekend and how it might be informing a certain Rookie of the Year race.
No, I think Scottie is like just special with a capital S. I think it's been a long time since the Raptors have had someone this talented. Frankly, you look at Vince Carter's rookie season and he's right there. You look at what he projects to be, he would be there in every single way. I think it's going to be a very rapid growth for him from here as well. I think the way he's picked things up, you think about where he was defensively at the beginning of the season and where he's coming on now. That is something that really sticks out to me. The defensive leadership that he's shown of late. He's able to, identify what offenses are doing earlier. I think that's contributing to some of the steals that we're seeing. He's anticipating plays better. He's understanding where his teammates are supposed to be and where they're going to be. And so I think that side of the ball, we expected more coming into the season, and he's really getting there now. And offensively, his ability to play bully ball is special. I mean, wow. Like when he snatched that ball off Jokic the other day and it kicked it back out, and I think he's incredible. Like, I don't know what more there is to say about him at this point. He made me cash out my I had Evan Mobley winning Rookie of the Year, but the way Scottie Barnes is going, like, I cashed out my bet on that.
Coward.
I miss out on whatever, but I think it's going to be that tight coming down the stretch of the season. He's been that good. You look at the Raptors in the standings. I can see that playing a factor where people will look and say, okay, the Raptors are ahead of the Cavs if they are to go ahead of them, and say Scottie Barnes has been a big contributor there. You look at the minutes he's played. You look at the scoring prowess that he's shown, and the defensive plays that he's making. Mobley would be, my pick, but I think the way, hype and the final couple months,
there's still a fifth of the season to go. Like,
yeah,
you should know that as well. Yeah,
exactly. The way those, that last impression can stand strong with voters. I think Scottie absolutely has a shot taking this.
Yeah, I mean, I think all season long, like, Mobley's had the edge because he's this sort of unprecedented rookie defender. I don't think anything Scottie Barnes has done has made him in that category just yet. Like, Mobley is insane. He is stopping everybody and everything whenever he wants, and that's like a truly transcendent defensive prospect. Offensively, Mobley has had to do a lot less. Obviously, he leans on Darius Garland quite a bit. Jarrett Allen's been a huge help there as well. we'll see. I mean, they've lost a couple games in a row here. We'll see if he can kind of, maintain down the stretch with a bigger burden on him. That remains to be seen. But with the way Barnes has taken, I think the offensive tools have kind of been there all season long. The playmaking, the no-look passing, the, scoring in isolation, whatever he wants to against whatever sort of poor big or guard or wing he's got on him. Like, that has been, I think, well beyond what Evan Mobley has done on the offensive end. He's had a lot more responsibility on that end. And he's starting to do the defensive stuff to match. And like a lot of it's like racking up stats on defense, and that doesn't tell the whole story of defense. But I think the way that, like you said, he just seems like he kind of has a little bit more of a sense of where he's supposed to be, where everyone else is supposed to be. You see him getting frustrated when other guys have breakdowns now. And I kind of think it was only a matter of time for a guy who sees the floor the way he does on the offensive end with the playmaking that he is able to orchestrate. Like, that seems like something that certainly translates to how you play defense, right? Just like a high level of understanding of what you're trying to do and what the other team is trying to do. And maybe this was always going to come along, the sort of knack for getting out and, disrupting plays, blowing up plays with his length, his size, his widths, all of that. It's really,
he's too smart.
incredible.
It was always a matter of time.
Yeah,
he's too
100%.
smart.
Yeah, he's a genius. The thing is, like, with the Rookie of the Year race, this is an interesting thing to me because, like, all season long, I think Raptors fans have kind of been resigned. Oh, yeah, Evan Mobley's going to win. That's fine. Scottie has a really great run, and boy, has he been great. And he might go and win a second straight Rookie of the Month in March at this rate. He's been that incredible. I do think, like, a lot of people are showing their asses in how they talk about Rookie of the Year. I've seen it, in like YouTube comments on the show, in conversations I've had with people about Rookie of the Year, just people you kind of see talk about it online or media folks, whatever. Like, it's a lot of folks who are talking about Rookie of the Year. And I think a lot of it is very dumb because I think it is boiled down so often to, well, it's obviously this one guy and the other two are like scum and they're not in it. And clearly it's Cade Cunningham. Are you stupid? Go read the YouTube comments from last Tuesday's episode with Mark Schindler if you're curious as to what Detroit fans think about Cade Cunningham. Wild stuff, truly insane. But like, all three guys are amazing is the thing. And I think you can have it ordered in any way you want and you're not wrong. But the only wrong way to look at this is to say one guy is the clear guy. Even though I love Scottie Barnes and would love for him to win, I can't earnestly look at his season and say, oh yeah, it's clearly better than what Cade Cunningham is doing or clearly better than what Evan Mobley is doing. It's more than okay for it to be a 3-horse race that is very close and will be decided by the voters, and there's not much we can do about it. Maybe we get a 3-way tie. Wouldn't that be lovely? You get 33 votes for each of those three guys in first, and then Bones Highland gets the rogue first place vote to throw it out of whack. I don't know. But I just think we're being way too simplistic and reductive with this conversation. And I had a really great interaction last night with, I'm trying to find the tweet now. His name is Dave Anthony. He replied to my post about this when I was talking about how it's very clearly a 3-horse race and you're being stupid and obtuse if you think it's only one. And his reply is, it seems like a great rookie class with so many great stories to appreciate, and you can't get mad at any candidate. I'm a huge Raps stan, but I don't even care if Scottie wins Rookie of the Year or not because Scottie is on our team, and that is the bigger joy than any award. That's like the healthiest Twitter take I've ever seen. That's the way to look at it, man. It's a 3-horse race. Do you have any last thoughts on this? I just wanted to get on my soapbox a little bit because I think people are being real dumb, as Raptors fans included. Like, it's not a clear decided thing, and there's still a fifth of the season left to decide things. So there's no need to come to any grand conclusion right now. Just appreciate that these three dudes all rock.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't be more in agreement with you. I think that's just the nature of Twitter. It's increasingly toxic, increasingly, black or white in terms of the takes. There's no real room for nuance. And so I kind of just take it for what it is.
But it's not even just Twitter, though. It's like, media, like established media folks writing about this stuff, even in some ways. It's like, how can you be this declarative, man?
Yeah. If that's the case, I mean, I guess I haven't been reading that stuff, but if that's the case, that's frustrating.
I'm just like to eat up the slop, I guess. I don't know. I'm at the trough. Just give me that garbage, baby. Extra.
Oh man. But yeah, I mean, that is frustrating to see because to me, you look at this class and the way they've started out, there's a very long way for them to go, but they project to go down in one of those, special draft classes that we saw
Yeah.
in 96 or 2003 or 84. And again, you got to do a whole lot more to really get in that conversation, but it's a heck of a start, that's for sure.
To leave off the Scotty chat on a good note, you have to pick one Scotty play from the weekend that stands as your favorite. What was it?
One Scotty play that stands out as my favorite. I will go with the one against the Suns where he was able to pick off the pass under 2 minutes remaining, head down court, and it's a very little thing, but to me, it meant something that he didn't turn back to stare at the opponent and just threw it down.
Right.
Because this is something Fred VanVleet has talked about in terms of valuing each possession, and when you're in a tight game, closing stretches, maybe I'm just being old school here, but that's definitely not the time to be staring back at your opponent. We know he loves to do that. Maybe he'll still do it in the second and third quarters, but I was happy to see fourth quarter winning time. Just throw it down, get that bucket.
That's a good one. Yeah, that Suns game was a lot of fun. We kind of talked heavy Nuggets on this one because I think it was maybe the more unlikely of the two wins, but both were incredible. The play that stands out for me, it's kind of a sneaky one, much like yours, I would argue. It was in the Nuggets game. I think it's in the first half in the second quarter. And Pascal is trying to seal out under the basket with like three dudes around him. And the pass Scotty threw to get him the ball, where he just kind of like delicately drops a little teardrop, and it just lands perfectly in Siakam's cradle with three dudes all around him with no chance of getting a hand on the ball. That's a ridiculous pass. I think that got slept on in that game because he did a lot of other stuff. He was collecting his own misses off free throws. He was scoring on the run. He was scoring over Jokic. He was doing everything. But that pass, man, like that really to me is one of like the greatest indicators of his like touch and feel for the game. Like no one has a right of throwing an entry pass like that with three dudes kind of lurking around Siakam. Unbelievable stuff. Anyway, we love Scotty Barnes over here. If you haven't noticed, we're going to continue on and talk about the dudes of the game from both games over the weekend against the Suns and against the Denver Nuggets. That's coming up in just 1 second here. But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at BetOnline. It's that time of year again as college basketball's tournament is finally upon us. The bracket is set. And from all this latest odds, contests and player props, BetOnline.net is the number one source for all your sports betting needs and info ahead of this year's March Madness. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season, so you are never making a bet without being fully informed. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information. You've got, of course, live betting. You've got Vegas casino games. You can put money down on baseball. It's back, baby. Throw some futures money on the Blue Jays to win the World Series because they're definitely going to do it. Head to the website today. Use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in the action. BetOnline is where the game starts. And we round out your first listen of the day here with the dudes of the game, the way we close out each and every one of these games. I have taken the liberty of choosing the dude of the game for the Suns game on Friday because it's someone we have not really talked about who made his return, who did not play on Saturday, but I think his return was just like a balm for dry lips or whatever we're talking, whatever the metaphor is you want. Fred VanVleet's the dude of the game for Friday. Wasn't like a terribly huge performance necessarily, just 10 points, 8 boards, 4 assists. But I don't know about you, man. I just thought his return to the lineup was just so comforting. It was like a security blanket just being thrown onto the shoulders of all the players, and the organization was there. It was like, he's so good. And, I just think having him for that game on Friday against the Suns when it wasn't clear, obviously he played against the Spurs last week as well, so it wasn't his first game back, but I just think the organization he offers is just so valuable. And I really liked his performance against the Suns, even if it was a quieter one, 3 of 11, it wasn't anything crazy. But what did you think of the way Fred played on Friday?
Yeah, I mean, it speaks volumes that he didn't play great, but it still was important to have him out there, and I don't think there's a better indicator of the value he brings to the team than Gary Trent's performance. And the way Fred is able to help open up the court and offer his spacing and make life easier for Gary Trent Jr. I don't think it's a coincidence that he goes into a slump with Fred VanVleet out of the lineup. And so, for Fred to be back and Gary Trent to go back on the heater that he's seemingly been on for most of the season, I think that's where you see the value, right? And even the driving lanes for Pascal Siakam, right? We saw that he was doing everything he can to try and work through multiple bodies, and on some level that affects his efficiency. But for him to have the lanes open up, to be able to get 10 assists against the Suns, I think that shows the value that Fred brings to the table.
Yeah, and I mean, again, I think this was like kind of a rough game by Fred's standards, and all things told, because like he was having a lot of trouble with the length of the Suns. There wasn't really anybody that he had guarding him who was, like not going to give him trouble. Even campaigns like long, it was kind of in his stuff. But I just think like the space he breathes into the team is so unbelievably valuable. And even when he's not having his best play, I mean, he had 5 turnovers to 4 assists. Like you're rarely going to see that from Fred VanVleet. But even on a night like that, like it's so apparent that the team is healthier when he's out there. And I mean, it speaks to what an incredible performance it was on Saturday that did it without him in the second night of the back-to-back. Like that was just an out-of-body experience for a lot of those guys. But Fred just makes everything that much easier for everyone. And like, it's nice to have him back. I'm glad they took it safe with him on Saturday, honestly, after picking up that win. If the Raptors had gone in, I know like teams don't go into games being like, oh, we're going to lose this one. But had they gone in thinking, oh, well, it's okay to rest this one for Fred because we won on Friday, and that's like a good split to pick up at the very least. Like, I think it was smart. Even like Nick Nurse kind of managed Fred's minutes in that Suns game on Friday as well. He only played like 16 first half minutes or something like that. It was beautiful. He played 22 in the second half, which again goes into his dudeness on the night. Just kind of making things easier while also having himself a pretty hard night overall. So that's my due to the game. Maybe a controversial choice. I don't know. We'll continue on to the due to the game for the Nuggets game. I'll let you pick this one, Big V. Who do you got?
Well, to remove some of the controversy from picking Fred for game 1 as a combination of his performances in game 1 and game 2, I'm going to finish the way I started this show and shout out Kem Burch. The work he did in both games was phenomenal. You look at, the Raptors looking to blitz Devin Booker and the way he was able to use his lateral quickness to stick with him and force the ball out of his hands, then rotate back to the middle and protect the paint and, help clean up the glass. And then you look at the Nuggets game too, 6 offensive rebounds. We talked about how big of a factor that the offensive rebounding was in that game. Defensively, again, really sticking with guards. I mean, there was that one possession that I thought was about to set the tone for the quarter. I mean, regardless of the make, it did, where you see Delano Banton pressing up on, by the way, shout out to Delano, who was great as well. Delano's pressing up on Bones Highland full court. It takes Highland about 7 seconds just to get, past half court. And then he's not able to make a pass. He takes a screen from DeMarcus Cousins and is switched on to Kem Burch, tries to beat Burch in a foot race, gets nothing, goes out, resets, attacks Kem Burch again, gets nothing, kicks it out, and eventually makes that fadeaway 3 over Burch with Burch draped all over him. But, I thought that possession sort of set the tone for the rest of that fourth quarter where the Raptors, just were magnificent. And I think a lot of credit goes to Burch for the way he's played in both games. I mean, shout out the alley-oop too. I mean,
yeah,
I didn't think there was any way he was going to throw that down. I thought that was just a bad pass and that was going to end poorly, especially with the guy's knee. I mean, that could have been the end of that. But he throws it down and then they just keep going.
Yeah, Thad, you brazen son of a bitch. It's like testing that knee out. Just does not care. No regard for Kem Burch's ligaments. But it was beautiful. Love to see it. This is the thing. You could have given the due to the game to like 8 guys over the course of the 2 games. It was just a really, really excellent team effort over the course of 2 games. That's cliche.
We haven't even talked about Precious today.
That's the thing is like, let's do some quick rapid fire dude mentions. Dude, the runner up dudes of the game. Let's just rapid fire through some dudes here to round out the show. Precious Achiuwa, is like over 50% on threes over his last X number of, I think, 25 attempts or so. He is up to 37% from three on the season. He is making fewer erratic plays. He got to start on Saturday, which is an interesting little wrinkle that we didn't really talk about, and who knows if that's going to be a long-term thing. Shout out to Armani Brooks, by the way. He also gets a little shout out here. He had a couple nice contests in the Nuggets game. I'll take it. Why not? Starter Armani Brooks. But precious thoughts. Give him away.
Precious thoughts. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with, just less erraticness and, the shot recognition. You need the spacing. And so the Raptors obviously have confidence in him shooting the shot. The fact that he's taking those above the break threes now to go with the corner threes. He's a guy that's not short on confidence. That's why we saw him try to make as many plays as we did in the first half of the season. But I think he's keeping things simpler. Obviously, there's still some of those mistakes in those decision making where probably hanging on to the ball a bit too long, and times where he's going at it when there's definitely better options available. But again, you see the progress, right? And so from the start of the season to now, and then I'm sure there's going to be some really ugly plays in the playoffs, but that's all part of the growth and the maturation. And I'll bring it back to patience, right? You just let these guys go through it and understand it, and then they're showing that they're smart enough to figure it out and become better players as a result of it.
Yeah, I think it speaks to my renewed and growing trust in Precious. There was a possession in the first quarter. It was like the third possession of the game where Gary Trent Jr., I think they were kind of up against they had numbers. It was sort of semi-transition, and Gary Trent Jr. makes a drive, and Precious Achiuwa is wide open in the right corner, calling for it by 30 feet. There's no one around him. And Trent, coming off a night where he scored 42 points the night before, angered me by not making the pass to Precious, because I was like, there's 3 points right there. He's going to hit that. He always hits that now. Trent missed the floater, and it was fine. They ended up winning. It didn't matter. But that play in particular, I didn't ever think I'd feel myself being like, pass to Precious, but I was. And so that's growth. Quickly, Chris Boucher, I think we probably should talk about too. He was just tremendous, especially on Saturday. A little quieter on Friday, but Saturday, 21 points, 8 of 15, 13 boards, 9 of which came on the offensive glass. I think he really offered a nice element to that closing lineup they went with before Siakam came in the fourth quarter. They needed some kind of finishing out there, and he was very eager to be that finisher, kind of in the vein of a Serge Ibaka from the past, I thought. Thoughts on Boucher's weekend, particularly Saturday against Denver?
I think if there's two things that he has sort of flipped the script on this season, one is, the ability to be an impact player, and two is the ability to be a leader. I think when he's come in with these bench units, you've noticed stretches where it's like, oh, we really need some outside shooting right now. And, he's like, okay, I got to pop these threes. And, we really need some extra possessions. I'm going to go get it off the offensive glass. I mean, we talked about Kem's 6. He had 9 against the Nuggets. So huge factor. And the scoring, when he gets his scoring going, he is a legitimate, X factor off the bench. If that scoring was as consistent as it was last season, he'd probably be in that 6th man running. I think that's how effective he's been after that cold start to the season. So shout out to him. Probably the most not the most important because of the swing factor of some of the other guys off the bench, but I think the most consistent, at least.
100%. Yeah, I would say he's been, most important. That's a difficult one to kind of sum up. I would probably say maybe Precious, but I mean, Boucher's been right there. He's been damn effective, and it was really great to see him kind of be instrumental in that fourth quarter run against the Nuggets, against a team that, I think he really struggled last time against Denver, if I recall, kind of just getting bullied around by dudes who are bigger than him. It was nice to see him kind of overcome the size mismatch and do what he did. It was just a wonderful weekend, man. Feeling real good. That we've said all of this without even really acknowledging Pascal Siakam is fully back after a couple slow games out of the break. He's been just dynamite playmaking on Friday against the Suns with 10 assists, just scoring at will, 31 points through 3 quarters against the Nuggets. Just Pascal Siakam, that all NBA train is kicking back up, baby. Fire the coal engines. We're going forward. We're going to wrap up here, though, and we'll come back on tomorrow's episode. We'll talk about Raptors-Lakers, which is going on tonight. That should be fun. Hopefully embarrassing for the Lakers, as most Lakers games are, so we'll see. And we will break it all down on tomorrow's episode of the podcast. Before we get out of here, though, Big V, anything you would like to promote for the good people out there?
Usual stuff at raptors.com. You can go check it out. If you haven't read my story on Alex Auerbach and sort of how the Raptors manage their mental well-being through the season, I recommend you go check that out. If if you have a chance this week, I'll have a couple stories out on the team, and that's about it for me. You can follow all of it at Vivek Jacob.
Sounds good, brother. Nice talking to you as always. It's always wonderful to begin the week with Big V on my screen. You can find me on Twitter at Woodley Sean. You can find the show wherever you get your podcasts, both audio and video. Subscribe on YouTube, on all your favorite podcast apps, all that good stuff. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. Go make your second listen of the day Locked on NBA, as the folks over there are covering all that is going on around the NBA each and every night, breaking down the biggest games and the storylines that you need to know if you did not catch the games yourself. So go check that show out. We'll be back again tomorrow to talk Raptors Lakers. Until then, bye-bye.